Hi, folks. Professor Diffley. This is History 103, Ancient World. This is Module 2, Chapter 1. This is the seventh and final lecture video for this module. All right, so moving on. So we were talking about the emergent agriculture. I was talking about pottery, why it's so important. It's for storage. You can store food. You can store seeds, that sort of thing. Really does help to have a surplus, right? And now we can store. They were great at making, ancients were great at making pottery. It could be airtight. That preserves it for that much longer. Better stone axes for clearing fields, plows. Now, domestication animals, oxen, horses, you can plow fields and clear fields a lot easier than if a human is trying to pull it and do it themselves. Here again is another image from the text of where you begin to see the different spread of farming in East Asia. Again, what is mostly China, and then it goes down here into other areas as well. There's the close-up. So what about in the Americas? It is a slower transition to agriculture. Why? Because you have different flora and fauna, right? Flora is the plant life, fauna being the animal life in the Americas than everywhere else. You have no draft animals, no herding animals, right? Horses, not native to the Americas. Cattle, not native to the Americas. Pigs, not native to the Americas. Those were all brought over much, much later by the Europeans. So you don't have draft animals. I mean, the closest thing you got is like an alpaca or a llama, and they're stubborn, mean animals, very hard to control, and really aren't the great pack animals. So they're going to develop differently. You're going to have different types of food, right? You'll have corn, and others, maize, but you will not have the same grains as well. And so that is, right? It's like in North America, you don't start getting rice production until the 1600s, when the English settled in the Carolinas and Georgia, and they started to plant rice more and more. And even then, that was but with the help of African slaves. The slaves taught them how to plant rice and how to cultivate it. Even things like you do have in the Americas root vegetables like potatoes, yams, things like that. You also find that in Africa. Thing with those is they don't preserve as easily as other grains, right? Potatoes will start to turn even if they're kept in dark, dry places. So it's harder there. You start to see stone tools around 6,700 BCE in the Tehuan Valley. You begin to see plant domestication about 5,000 BCE. And you do see fishing and shell fishing along various coasts. And that's something I should have mentioned before in the, your book does, I'm pretty sure, and the video does, in Hunter-Gatherers. Fishing was most likely where they got the mass majority of their meat sources. Why? If you're fishing from, net fishing or that, you're less likely to get killed by fish, right? They're not hunting shark here. Less likely to get killed by a fish than a wild animal that you're hunting. It is a little easier there. So that was likely, if they're around water, they were also getting a lot of their food and meat from the fish and shellfish populations there. More here. Again, what do they start to get? Plant experimentation, but you get this trinity, so to speak. These three foods that are grown together that become a staple in the Americas. Maize, which is corn, squash, and beans, right? They can all be grown together. They complement each other. They don't, sap all the nutrients from the soil, but they also work, right? If you grow beans, usually beans grow on a sprout, right? And so the corn stalk, the maize stalk, acts as allows the beans to wrap around and grow up it, right? The squash can cover the base of the both the other plants, protecting it to a degree, and then all three of them together become the basis of this diet. Maize, not fully domesticated around 2000 BCE. What do we mean by that? It's some places are using, some aren't. That spreads as people go. But again, lack of draft and herding animals. Much harder to plow large fields if you don't have animals that can help you clear it. And so this had to be done by hand, burning, things like that. So it's going to be harder in this area of the world to grow them. You would still have civilizations, great civilizations with large populations, but they will develop later and not as many compared to other parts of the world. The Andean highlands, the one thing they did herd, though, was in the Andes mountains in South America, guinea pigs were raised for food. And I'm not talking about the little guinea pigs you had as like a kindergarten class pet, or you might have some people keep as pets. These were larger guinea pigs. These were much, much larger animals, and they were herded, and used for food. So that is one of the rare things. I mean, people did hunt deer, bison, buffalo, things like that. But that's different. That's hunting. Herding is where they domesticate them, right? And they use them for there. Again, semi-domesticated for clothing and hauling. Llamas are, again, why they're... You can mostly domesticate a llama, but they're very willful creatures. They don't cooperate all the time, but you use them for clothing and sort of as a pack animal to carry things. But obviously not as big as a horse or a cattle or something like that. Can't carry nearly as much. Again, they use legumes, grains, tubers. The tubers are the root vegetables. So there's a balanced diet. That's something when the Native Americans and the Europeans meet, in the 1400s and 1500s. From the records that we have both sides, the physical appearance differences of both groups were striking, and both of them recorded and talked about it. The Europeans couldn't get over how good-looking, how tall, how physically fit the Native Americans, wherever they found them, were, and Native Americans couldn't get over how small, out of shape, and unfit the Europeans were, and that was something that really did stand out, and it was based partly on diet and things like that. Spread of farming in Africa. Again, south of the Sahara Desert, right? You have the Sahara Desert, then you have the areas underneath the Sahel region, and beyond. You see that's the striped region, the Sahel. There is where you see some more domestication. You got sorghum, yam, and then you have some other Ethiopian crops over here. But the problem is you don't have a lot of areas for these farming. Down in some of the other areas in south, so let me go back. In this area here, you'll have banana production, things like that, but not the size, the kind of large scale farming you'll see elsewhere. Where again, this is the Sahel region to here, area south of the just south of the Sahara Desert. Farmers and herders do end up there. Why it's milder there, right? It's like the perfect temperatures and climate for it. And what they're going to do later is, and we'll talk about this in later chapters and modules, is they will begin to migrate here, the Bantu peoples and others, and bring their techniques to other areas of the continent, to the east and south. Again, the Sahel is a lush grassland, vegetation, many animals. Sorghum, a type of a grain, is grown there. Again, they're going to be in the temperate, more wetter climates. They had more houses made of stone. They had underground wells, granary storage, rock engraving. So this is the beginnings of a full human civilization here. This is a map of archaeological finds of these the types of things, of wells, granary storage, stuff like that in there. In the rainforests of West Africa, difficult for large-scale farming. As I said, mostly root crops. Also, when it is wetter climates, things don't preserve as well. One of the problems is the Sahara Desert is continually growing. Desertification is how a desert grows, right? As the edges of it become, where the desert meets other land, the desert begins to take over. And the Sahara has been growing over time and still does today. And this is a depiction of the Sahara today. You can see back, the image I showed you, the Sahara was further north, but this is what it looks like. A very inhospitable in terms of if you're going to try to grow anything there. What causes desertification? Drying of climate, overuse of land, right? So this is a satellite map today of North Africa, and you can see here's the Sahel. You can see the stark difference. There's an actual picture from satellite there. Overuse of land. They destroyed the grasslands, and that's what keeps the soil down, and that begins to blow away, and the desert can reclaim it. Cutting of land, that sort of thing will happen there. Other revolutions during this era in the Neolithic Revolution is the growth of a social organization, where you come from these little settlements, grow into villages, that grow into towns, that grow into cities, right? What's the difference between all those? It is about size of it, right? Originally had circular dwellings. That's usually what you found. Like think of a teepee almost even there. or other huts. Instead, they became more rectangular. Why? It's easier to build walls for separation in there. And you see here in Catalhoyuk, depiction of it, houses were built up one against each other. Why? Protection, right? One of the things you notice in these areas, there are no doors. You got in through the roof, right? That's for protection. So you had ladders, you could just pick up the ladder. But yeah, it's easier to build for protection. You're going to have more use of resources. But one of the big things now that we don't need to spend as much time hunting for food, right? That's what hunter-gatherers had to do. You can have specialists and specialization, right? You have people who grow the food, people who prepare it. You have craftsmen. You have a warrior class. You have all this specialization. Why? Because we all don't need to be trying to hunt and gather food all day. A smaller and smaller set of the population does that, allows others to specialize and really and grow. So you're going to have artists, all that, and that is really going to change human culture. And so this is some depictions of what these early settlements must, probably look like. This is Catalhoyuk here. Again, like I said, there's no doors. You got in through the roof, that sort of thing. There, they all combine, all connected, and in the less blown up version here, if you look at this, you can read a little bit more. You don't need to know all those little things. It's just, but you can, if you search that, this is from the historic site there. Here's more on it. What the insides of their homes and their structures look like. You would have an interior courtyard where you'd keep animals, keep them fenced in, and more protection on them. Again, the open air part, they were very dark areas. You don't want a lot of holes in your roof because that's where the water comes in, or windows on the side because then people can get in, and so can everything else there. This is what Catalhoyuk looks like today in modern day Turkey. This is the archaeological site. They built a structure over it to preserve it. You can see how the houses were built, and you can tell this is human made because you have straight lines, you have squares, rectangles, and you can see bricks and things like that there. Here's another look of it from today. Again, settlement, created an irrigation system, became stratified, right? You will have different burial sites. That's true today. You can go around a cemetery and anywhere you can tell who had money and who didn't. You can tell by cemeteries, right? The size of their burial sites, their grave markings, that sort of thing. But you start to get, upper classes. You get a warrior class, you get a leader class, you get a priestly class. And now, instead of everybody being egalitarian or their prestige based on what they contribute, it was from birth, right? You're going to get the nobility, right? The nobles, all those groups in power will tend to keep power there. But as you have bigger power, someone needs to organize to irrigate all that. Someone needs to defend the crops. Someone needs to organize all this, and that's where it comes from. And this is where you begin to get more and more differences in men and women. In this is where there's a tighter control of women. Women are left out of a lot of the power. The priestly classes, the warrior classes, and the rulership classes, that sort of thing. And so you start to get more dividing lines between them. And again, women probably invented agriculture because they're the ones that tended to the gathering, so they knew the most of it. Once they go into settled communities, it's called the Great Leap Sideways, where they don't move up. They are just, kept in a lesser position. Also then, as you get these larger tools and using large animals, men were thought to take over because they were stronger and bigger. Women did, different tasks there. And so this really begins to affect power relationships where, a gender, sex, male or female, becomes more and more important. So here's just a conclusion on that. So again, that is the module lecture slides. So this is what they will be like. Again, this is the first one for the course, module 2, chapter 1. Again, they'll usually be a little shorter than these, but this is pretty much how they'll work. So again, watch through these. Let me know if you have any questions. Of course, also look at the text as well. The videos, they all go together. But all right, thanks.